It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Jen Cohen as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Hello and welcome to Countywide. I'm your host, Jen Cohen. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we're talking about the 260 widening project. It's so exciting. It's so close to the end. We're talking with Steve Ayers. He is the Economic Development Director for the town of Camp Verde. We have with us also James Bramble. He's ADOT's Senior Resident Engineer. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Thanks. Exciting times. The end is near.
Very close. We can only hope.
Oh my gosh, well, this had to be just an enormous project. On a scale of 1 to 10, James, as the engineer, scale of 1 to 10, where did this project fall?
It's one of the larger ones we've done in the district for sure. You know, we don't get that kind of money outside of Phoenix too often, so it's definitely the largest project I've been on.
All right. So. Well, that's exciting. And Steve, how's it going?
Good. We're really excited. I mean, it's really opened the door for some great opportunities out there along the corridor, economically speaking. It's a much safer road. I mean, there's so many pluses for this that. Oh my gosh! Yeah, we've waited a long time for this.
Yeah. Now, give us some backstory on this particular highway. 260 was, you know, it was kind of a scary road, just not that long ago.
Yeah, and it has been. You know, it's been numerous fatal accidents over the last few decades, and from the town's perspective, the town incorporated in 1986, and when they incorporated all the way out to the area where the improvements are in, most of it. And that was taken in, considered that someday it would become the town's cash register. Well, that was 1986. So here we are now, 32 years later, and we finally have opened the door to the till out there, let's put it that way, so we can start to realize that long-held dream that this would be the commercial corridor for the town. And it was done in a kind of an unusual way. There had been several attempts to do this, as you probably well know, back in 2002 and 2003. County Supervisor Chip Davis had put together a program where he was going to borrow the money, and the county was going to pay interest on that loan, which was about $45 million, give or take. But no cooperation between the towns could be brought to bear. So the project died. The first 2 miles out of Cottonwood was built, and there were some safety improvements done at our end, but it just languished. So it languished from there until in 2013, we did something unusual. The cities of Camp Verde and Cottonwood got together and actually hired lobbyists to go to the State Transportation Board and explain the situation to them and show them that there were some projects where some cost savings could be realized and that you could fund this project. And eventually the board allocated funding for it. So it's not something that anybody else has ever tried, but we knew that if we didn't do it, that the long-term prospects of getting that road done were probably pretty slim. So we're really grateful to the board, to ADOT. ADOT jumped right on the project. It's been great. Everybody got together and started to cooperate. We signed an access management agreement, which was part of the stipulation from the board, and off we went.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, James, let's talk about the design of the roadway. It's pretty impressive.
Well, it's kind of your standard divided highway, you know, a couple lanes in each direction, and what we were looking for, you know, long term on this was kind of preserving that corridor to keep traffic moving. Trying to avoid, you know, losing out on that investment in a short amount of time with the amount of traffic that'd be out there. You know, traffic signals just don't operate as efficiently as the roundabouts do. So that was part of that agreement with all the local agencies where we said we need to maintain a high level of service for 30 years, I believe, on this. And that roundabouts are the only design that will do that. So
how many are there out there?
There are 7.
7.
The project plans as they went out did not have all 7. We had to pull one out at Willshire and Camp Verde, and we were since able to add that back in when we started construction with some help from Yavapai County and the town of Camp Verde.
Yeah, that was a good cooperative deal that actually fell out, and then we've got the ADOT to agree to split the cost on it.
All right.
Then the realization is that we've now got a $15 million development being built on that roundabout right now.
Wow.
So the investment was worth it.
It's opening up a lot. Now, what kind of feedback have you gotten on the roundabouts? I know you either love them or hate them.
Personally, you know, we haven't had anything bad. We did so much public outreach at the beginning of this that I don't think anybody was very surprised. I think maybe a few people were, but you know, as they were built, you know, you can just see how much better they function as the project, you know, progressed. As soon as we opened the Willshire one, it was just like instantly people, you know, could get around better and not sit waiting to make a left turn all day long out there. So we haven't had any negative feedback on them at all in a while.
Good. I know once you get used to them and you start using them, you go, wow, these things are great. That's just, that road now is so fast, you know, and that's just doing the speed limit. We're not talking about that, but not having to wait at a traffic light. I mean, if you had to wait at 7 traffic lights, 5 minutes apiece, that adds a lot. You know, if you hit those lights just right and you catch every red light, oh my gosh.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. Now, roundabouts are great. And they're special roundabouts. They're made for tractor trailers to go through, James.
These are some of the biggest ones we've ever built in this district because of that reason, and their diameter is so large that extra capacity could be added in the future should, you know, a large store or a traffic generator be put in adjacent to one of these. They can widen these roundabouts to the inside to provide a dual left turn lane or something like that. So there was kind of the future in mind with that.
I saw that in the design. I saw how enormous the center was, and I was like, why is there a mountain in the center of each of these roundabouts? That's excellent. So they in the future can be widened for more traffic.
Right, and believe it or not, 2 semi-trucks should be able to drive through at the same time, side by side.
All right.
In theory.
You haven't tested that.
Assuming there's no driver error.
It depends on the driver.
Oh my gosh. So when it's all said and done, you mentioned briefly the life of the road. You're looking at 30 years, you think?
We wanted to maintain a high level of service for 30 years, which was the agreement, which, you know, traffic signals really wouldn't have done that. So we anticipate this will give us easily 30 years of service operating with the amount of traffic that we expect to see out there.
Okay, is that what you look at when you say years of service? Is it the breakdown of the materials used in the roads, or the fact that traffic is going to increase and you're going to need to build a bigger road at that point?
So we use level of service as it typically describes delay, and you go through A, B, C, D to F. And, you know, a traffic signal, if you sit there for 5 minutes, you're pretty much at a level of service F. So I don't know off the top of my head what the exact breakdown is, but a level of service C or better is what we're looking for, and that's waiting no longer than 30 seconds, I think, at any intersection.
Okay. Interesting. So the level of service has to do with the amount of time a driver would have to wait or take to get through the road. Well, that's very considerate of you. See, I'm figuring it's breakdown of materials, asphalt and whatnot, but it turns out it's for the driver, for the motorist.
Well, we do design the materials that go into it. The bridges have a service life that we aim for, as well as the paving. You know, we try to get 20 years out of it with proper maintenance.
Very good.
And the bridge we'd like to get, I think, at least 50 years out of.
Well, certainly.
Most of them out there are older than that. But
not bad.
There's also the safety factor on those. It's probably worth throwing your 2 cents in.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about that, because we've got to take a quick break. If you go to AZDOT.gov and you go to the North Central District, you'll see they've got a project section. You can check out what's happening in this area and all that. We're talking with James Bramble. He is the Senior Resident Engineer for ADOT. And of course, we have Steve Ayers with us, the Economic Development Director for the town of Camp Verde. Don't go away, because we'll be right back.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
How I define making In the broadest possible terms, it is making something extant in the world that didn't exist. Everybody who's ever made anything is bringing something into fruition for a reason, and that act in and of itself makes us stewards of our culture. It's something that we're talking about. It's a response. Actually, it's telling a story. That's really what it is. And I include everything that could be made: painting, sculpture, welding, all of that.
Yellow is positive.
When a kid gets their hands on the world and learns that they can make their fantasy play, that they can make their reality, that's power. And as far as I'm concerned, everyone should feel that kind of power. There we go. If there's something that interests you to bring into the world, that's fantastic. Go figure out how to do it. Go tell your own story. There it is. And so I want to know why you make. Let's go.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
And welcome back to Countywide. I'm Jen Cohen. We're talking with James Bramble, the Senior Resident Engineer for ADOT, and Steve Ayers, the Economic Development Director for the town of Camp Verde, talking about the 260 widening project. We were talking about bridges. We were talking about roundabouts. Safety came up. Now, James, statistics, anything you can throw at us for the difference between, say, any old intersection, a light or not, and then a roundabout. What are we looking at?
I don't necessarily have any statistics, but the design of a roundabout eliminates potential points of conflict. Mm-hmm. When you have a standard four-way intersection, I think there's something like 128 potential points of conflict where you could have an accident, turning right, left, going straight through, and it's a much higher rate of speed at those. A roundabout, much lower speed, and I think it reduces the points of conflict to something like 8. So the severity of the accidents that may happen at a roundabout is much lower than a high-speed, four-way intersection.
Well, that's true. Now, it was being in news, and we read about traffic accidents all the time. The only things we get in the roundabouts are rollovers, people going a little too fast for the conditions or something. But I don't know if I've read of an accident happening in a actual roundabout. So they're an incredibly safe design. That's great to throw that in there, Steve. Now, where are we now? What's ahead? What have we got left? I know we had to take a pause in some work, Steve, because of conditions. So
yeah, I think James can address the final paving out there, which of course is the sign that says rough road ahead, final paving next spring. He can address what occurred out there.
Yeah, we just had some unusual October weather for us. It was quite a bit wetter and cooler than we were used to. And the final layer of pavement that we put down there is a rubberized asphalt, what we call a friction course, quieter, a smoother ride. Sure. And it has temperature requirements to put it down. Typically, you want it, 85 degrees and above as a surface temperature to make sure, it stays down. And we just didn't have that. Right. So, and these plants are, we scheduled that week to do that 6 months in advance. And if it rains, you're kind of out of luck. Oh. So, unfortunately, we did have to push that to come back in the springtime and finish up.
Because it's a very specialized coating. It's not like we'll see paving going on elsewhere, even up in Flag right now when it's very cold, but this particular product that's going to be used is very, very sensitive to temperatures. Right.
And we could, we can do any other of our base pavement courses in just about any weather. But this is, highly dependent on temperature. Okay. But, before we walk away for the winter, it will be 55 probably by the end of this week. Everything's open, flowing well. So.
Right, yes, everything's open. So just a little rough of a road, just a little noisier of a ride, but it's all open. It's beautiful.
And that was actually a result of the contractor smoothing out some of the bumps just from the phasing of the construction. They do get a bonus or a penalty based on how smooth the road is because we all benefit from a smooth road. And so they actually took that upon themselves to smooth that out, and that's how we ended up with the rough surface.
How interesting. Wow, I didn't know they were held accountable for the smoothness of the road.
They are. It's pretty standard on our jobs. We have a special van with special equipment that actually measures the smoothness of the road.
Get out. Yeah. That's great. Now, Steve, let's talk about the road's importance to the Verde Valley. This is huge, this new road here.
It is, and I think we saw that, like I said, back in 2013 when we all got together and said, you know what, we need to put our own special interests aside and look at the road as a regional conduit. 179, the road that comes off of 17 and goes into Sedona, frankly doesn't function real well, as we all know. A lot of money spent to turn a two-lane road into a two-lane road, is the way I've described it. So this road will now offer that safer, greater mobility between the freeway and Cottonwood, and now with Cottonwood's the link over on 89 into Sedona. Pretty safe route across there. From the town of Camp Verde's perspective, this has always been the quote economic corridor that we have always wanted to have, and we're starting to see some movement in that direction. The timing of the road also timed the completion of the road fell right in line with our new designation for opportunity zone, which includes the whole corridor.
Right, an opportunity zone. And if we look at it previously with the small road, it was a whole lot of nothing out there. And I always thought, wow, the potential of this area, if it could be developed. And so now that's becoming opened up. It is now an opportunity zone. What a neat designation.
Yeah, so that gives special tax incentives for investments along that corridor. It has triggered an enormous amount of interest. There are several opportunity funds, which are investors, looking at properties along the 260 corridor. We're already starting to see some of the first pieces. That one at Willshire, which is a 400-unit plus RV park over there. That's about to be a $10 to $15 million investment there, which that alone triggered 2 more investments in the town, which we're potentially looking at 125 to 150 million just as a result of that. And we really credit this road project of getting us there. I mean, it's the piece that's kind of changed the face of the landscape out there between Camp Verde and Cottonwood. Cottonwood will benefit from it, as will we.
Yeah, absolutely. When you've got more mobility and more safety, of course, it brings everybody in, and the large roads that allow access for all the tractor trailers and the bigger vehicles to allow the bigger stores to come in, or, you know, that's wonderful. With all the new housing too coming in too, with the RVs, you know, all those new residents to come spend more money.
Yeah, no, we're seeing an uptick the likes of which we have dreamed about for literally decades, starting to occur, and I can't stress enough how important working with ADOT has been. I think we've really worked together a lot on settling there were issues of access out there, there were problems with right-of-ways, and we have worked side by side with ADOT, with their legal team, with the property owners, and everybody out there to satisfy all these questions that the road brought on. And I think we're almost at a happy place these days.
All right, well, that's great. Speaking of happy place, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. AZDOT.gov. If you go there, go to the North Central District. You can see the projects that are happening in our area. Don't go away. We've got more countywide. Be right back.
It appears these hot ashes are about to be dumped, which could possibly start a wildfire. How will Smokey deal with such a hot situation? The garden hose defense. Next, a thorough stir. Then another spray. And finally, feeling if the ashes are cool.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, yes, the selfie. A ritual practiced so frequently with this tribe, but not so much by Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Being prepared is a part of who you are. But it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
And welcome back to Countywide. Just a few moments left. I'm Jen Cohen. We're talking with Steve Ayers, the Economic Development Director for the town of Camp Verde, and also James Bramble. He's ADOT's Senior Resident Engineer. We've been talking about the 260 widening project, which is cat whisker from being done. The final paving course is going to be done. We're set now May.
That's what we're looking at, to have the, longer days with the temperature. We need to place that as, first week of May.
Sure. Okay. So. Now, what have you been hearing about the road? Has there been any rumors circulating? You mentioned something about a rumor you're dealing with.
So we've heard from several people coming to us saying that they have heard that ADOT is going to post signs on I-17 that show 260 as the route to get to Sedona. And that's not true. We only post the most direct route on any of our roadways, so that would be 179. But what I have heard that we are looking into is to be able to construct some of those changeable message signs on 17 to be able to provide drivers with travel times using either route, and then drivers could make their own decision on which way they'd like to go. But Copper Canyon, a little bit difficult to get power to a lot of those areas, so I think that's something we're still looking at.
Well, that's interesting. How do you measure travel time?
Well, Google does a pretty good job of it on their maps, and honestly, that's what a lot of our, we use third-party apps when you go to Phoenix and you see signs saying how long it'll take you to get to a destination or a street. There's just so much data out there that's available.
Interesting.
We have in some of our traffic signals Bluetooth devices that can measure and give us feedback on how corridors are flowing.
Wow.
State Route 69 in Prescott Valley is one of those, and we can actually change the timing of those signals remotely.
Wow.
To do that. So technology's out there that really helps us.
Pretty cool. Yeah, though roundabouts don't need technology.
No.
So when there's a power outage, a roundabout still works, which I like.
And we don't have an electrical bill.
Right. Yeah. Yes, I know all the lighting that's going in along the highway must be daunting with electrical bills now.
Well, I think we'll assume that role of paying those bills.
Really, with the LED lights that are out there, it's pretty minimal.
Yeah, it's got to a point where the cost savings is pretty significant. And not having to operate, I don't know, I've seen some pretty drastic, some pretty significant cost savings estimates of not having a traffic light for 30 years while you're functioning out there.
Right, for sure. Yeah.
A lot of money saved that way.
Absolutely. So that's great to know. You spend all this money. Do we have an idea of what's gone into it, or where the budget is?
I think overall, it's really, under where we thought it would be.
All right.
So I think overall, including design and right of way and everything that's got us to this point, we're still under the, I think, $65 million that was set aside for the project.
Fantastic. That's great, James.
So you can build me some more trails out there.
Sure.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Thank you for the hard work that you're doing on this highway. Really appreciate you. AZDOT.gov. Check it out if you want to learn about future projects. That's all the time we have for Countywide. We'll see you again next time.